Hey guys, I'm AfroGeek PlusUltraNappy and welcome back to a brand new video. So in today's video, I'm going to be bringing you guys the final part, the conclusion, the finale of Static Shock. And yes, I am finally closing the long series for the Static Shock review. I wish Static Shock would have lasted at least more than 4 seasons. Maybe I wish we would have gotten like a 5th season. But Static Shock is making a huge comeback in the media. You know, you got the comic being released with the milestone revision, or the milestone, I guess you would say, resurrection, to where they've been making more characters, I guess more rebooted, not rebooted, but I guess more of like an updated version of these said characters, bringing it to a whole new audience. You also got the Static Shock comic. They just finished the season 1, so now they're about to do season 2 by one of my favorite artists. I'll put him up here on the screen so you can see who he is. I like his art style. I've been following him for a while, so it's really nice to kind of get some of his own artwork. And I'm sure other people might have done some stuff with the comic too, but I really am impressed with Nicholas's artwork. So this season, don't remember much from it. Like, I remember bits and pieces off of Kids WB, but I started rewatching the series, I want to say back when, I started rewatching it when it was, you know what? I want to say I started rewatching the series when Warner Brothers was releasing the DVDs, like in like season format. Because at first you just had the New Kid in Town, that one Static Shock DVD that had like 4 episodes on it. And now that they have dropped the seasons on DVD, I'm waiting for them to release a Static Shock complete series on Blu-ray. I have a hunch it is coming. So Static Shock season 4 aired from January 17th, 2004 till May 22nd, 2004. Honestly, you know, it wasn't my favorite season out of the whole series. And I know normally final seasons of shows typically, you know, are good or bad. They can be hit or miss. This one I was like in the middle with. Granted, I did have some favorite episodes, but you know, at the same time, it was just stuff that I wasn't like, you know, it was like, I guess it was, you know what, here, how do I phrase this? It was like I was seeing repeated episodes of stuff from previous seasons when I wanted to kind of move past, you know, and thought they would have buried certain characters within the ground, but they didn't. And you know what, that's okay. If it gets views and a lot of people like these said characters, then obviously television shows and or movies will bring those characters back. Not complaining, but again, I'm going to be telling you guys my favorite episodes from season 4, so this will be a particular biased list. Not a particular, this will be a biased list because they are my favorite episodes from season 4. So further ado, let's go ahead and dive into episode 1, titled Future Shock. So in this episode, Static goes back in time. After Static is assisting Batman and Robin with a mission, he is accidentally sent 40 years into the future, where he has to help the Batman of that area, Terry McGinnis, save and capture a superhero, which is Static's future self. So you get to see what Static looks like 40 years into the future, and then you also get a glimpse of Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond. Again, I don't know if this was around the time Batman Beyond finished airing on Kids WB. I want to say that I think this might have been, if not a few years, then 1 to 2 years after Batman Beyond aired. And if I said Batman Begins when I was talking about Terry McGinnis, I meant to say Batman Beyond. I just want to throw that out there now. So again, you get to see Static's future self. He's kind of a bit arrogant and a little hot-headed. But you know, I guess if you've been through some stuff or if you dealt with a lot of losses, you might tend to be a bit better when you're older. And again, getting to see Static team up with Terry McGinnis is actually pretty cool. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember, they did butt heads a little bit. And I mean, you got 2 teenagers and they're superheroes. You know, they have to look over a whole city, so you know they're gonna have a lot of weight on their shoulders. They're gonna be a bit arrogant. They're gonna want to do things their way if they're told to do things a certain way. But at the end of the day, they managed to kind of get the older Static, who I think was in his 50s, to help them out and assist with stopping the villain from that episode. I forgot the villain, but overall it was a good episode to kind of see what Static looked like in the future. If I'm not mistaken, I thought there was another episode within Justice League Unlimited, I believe it was, where they did team up with future Static, because I watched Batman Beyond not too long ago, maybe a couple months back. Anyway, off track, but let's just get back into it. So now I move on to episode 2 called She Back. So with that being said, you already know She Bang is going to be making a return in this episode. And this has to be, what, the 4th episode with She Bang now? Again, must be a pretty good character. I like She Bang. But again, at the same time, if you bring a character back so much, then the whole elements of surprise and the originality is just, I don't know, it's just overdrawn. And then it just gets a bit dull whenever they come back. So when She Bang returns to Dakota City, her loud and expressive personality clashes against Static and Gears. Meanwhile, Madeline Spaulding returns with newer abilities that give her the power of telekinesis. She breaks several other metahumans out of jail in an attempt to get revenge on Static. So if I'm not mistaken, Melody was, I believe, the character that controlled people's minds when she was going to try and run for, I guess, student body president or class president of the high school that her and Virgil went to. And, you know, Static had to stop her with that. And then I think she came back again in the 3rd season, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I remember she came back in that 3rd season and they had to deal with her again. So again, you're coming back with one of the same old villains and another character. Now again, I like She Bang, but when you see She Bang for like the 4th or 5th time, it just gets a bit redundant. Same thing with Madeline. Madeline Spaulding was not one of my favorites little villains from the Static Shock series, but you know, it made for a good episode and I must have liked it because I put it in my favorites. And again, I'm pretty sure I put it in my favorites because of She Bang. So now we move on to episode 3, Out of Africa. So Anansi, and I think I pronounced it right, Anansi, visits Dakota in an attempt to stop Osabo and his new allies Amani and Mboro from obtaining a golden spider, which is the source of his mystical powers. Static and Gear get caught up in the mix as they have to save Sharon, who ended up with the artifact. You know, and again, I think this is the 3rd episode with this character from Africa, or the superhero from Africa. I think this is the 3rd episode. Don't quote me on it. But, you know, this episode it wasn't bad. And you know, anything with bringing in older faces, especially like older black superheroes, I'm always going to be a fan of it. I know you're going to probably bring that argument in the comments that,
oh, you're just saying that because they're a black superhero and because you're black, right?
No, I had that same argument with someone when I talked about Miles Morales on Twitter. Not Twitter, on Reddit. Because people like to try and make arguments justifying because you're black, you like this superhero because they are black, when instead you've listed why you like that superhero, not just because they are black. But I like I like Anasi. I like him because he's different. He kind of reminds me of, I guess, I don't want to say the DC version of Black Panther. His overall aesthetic, his style, his charisma is a thing that I think that attracted me to the superhero that I like the most. Anything that has to do with other characters, because you don't see a lot of episodes featuring Sharon kind of in the mix. So I believe that's another reason why I liked it. But overall, this wasn't a bad episode. It was pretty good. All right, so now we move on to episode 4, Fallen Hero. So Static faces off against his idol Green Lantern when he is seemingly beginning to commit robberies all over Dakota, only to find out that another culprit is behind it all. So again, this is where you see characters from Justice League Unlimited come in. And you know, Phil Lamar, I'm sure he had a ball because he voiced Green Lantern in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and he also voices Virgil Hawkins, aka Static Shock. I liked the John Stewart Green Lantern. That has always been one of my favorite Green Lanterns because it was the one I grew up on. It was the one I was first introduced. So I have that little bit of biased opinion towards him. You know, it's one of those things where if you look up to your idol and you see that they're committing crimes and you have to fight against them, that makes for a pretty good episode. And I think overall that's why I liked it, because you got to, again, revisit characters from Justice League and you get to see them face off against Static. So again, overall exciting. Anytime Static gets to team up with, if not the whole Justice League, a member of a Justice League, is always going to be satisfying to me. So now we move on to episode 5, titled Army of Darkness. Static and Gear must go head to head with the Nightbreed, a group of Bang Babies who have a lethal reaction to sunlight. Under Ebon's leadership, they intend to blanket Dakota City into darkness. So again, you're introduced to newer characters, I guess newer villains within the series, and the overall, I think, idea of trying to put a huge blanket over Dakota City to make it dark forever is really was actually very interesting, to say the least, because it's cool. You don't get a lot of people coming up with weird ideas like that. But I mean, anything to kind of keep the sunlight from shining through, so that way they can keep their powers, and their powers are way much more stronger. All right, so now we move on to episode 6, No Man's Land. In an attempt to revive his son Edwin, Alvic kidnaps Static, Hotstreak, Talon, Gear, and Rubber Band Man. Static and Hotstreak are handcuffed together, and they must cooperate if they intend on escaping and rescuing the others. I think at this point everyone is familiar with Hotstreak. He is pretty much Static's nemesis. He was on the rival gang of, I guess, Static's acquaintances from when they all were in school. I don't know, Hotstreak pissed me off, man. That dude really pissed me off, and I really wanted him to I just wanted his powers to be gone for good. Like, dude tries to take advantage of like girls when they try and tell him to back off. Tries to kill Static. I'm pretty sure he also tried to kill Virgil and a couple other people, because, and I think Daisy. I'm pretty sure he tried to kill Daisy because he got rejected, or one of Static's friends because they rejected him. So overall, not a huge Hotstreak fan, but the fact that you get comedy gold like this, where it is Static and Hotstreak together, and you think, oh, you know, maybe they might form some sort of truce or an alliance to where they won't, you know, try and go after each other anymore. But unfortunately, that is not the case, because in the end, I think there's still issues between the two, and I'm pretty sure Hotstreak, I think, betrayed Static somewhere in this episode. I think this was the episode, I'm not quite sure, but overall I thought it made a pretty good episode. So now you move on to episode 8, Now You See Him. Using advanced technology, a teenager manages to slow down time to move faster in an attempt to win Daisy's romantic affections. He learns Static and Gear's identities and blackmails them into leaving him alone so he can win Daisy over. Oh boy. You know, Static ain't happy. You know, I remember this very clearly, that this guy had the power to slow down time. Anything having to do with time is already gonna win me over, especially someone who can manipulate time. But this episode was something else, because this guy just was on a whole nother level. And the fact that you trying to go after Virgil's girl, man, is that gonna make for a good plot. So now we move on to episode 12, Kidnapped. Former Alva Industries employee Amnora, who was in charge with the task of discovering Static's identity, is fired by Alva after he loses the desire to know the information with his new son now revived. However, having uncovered the necessary information, she decides to blackmail Static by kidnapping his father and forcing him to steal parts from Alva Industries. I'm pretty sure his dad does find out, you know, Virgil is Static. And I don't know if it was in this episode or if it was in Power Outage, which is the series finale episode, which is ironically the next episode we will be talking about. I like how dark this is, because first off, anytime you have a villain who tries to go the full length of trying to do all this while making you release your identity by kidnapping someone who raised you, who's there for you, loves you, and then it's like, you're down to the wire to where you're like, oh man, I gotta tell my pops, otherwise I don't know what I'm gonna do. He's gonna be gone, and Dakota's gonna be in big trouble. So overall, I like this episode. I think this villain was very nasty and mean. It had that corporate vibe that I think I kind of digged with, but overall, yeah, no, this episode was really, really good. Which leads us now to the series finale episode, aka episode 13, Power Outage. All the Bang Babies in Dakota, including Static and Gear, find themselves reverting to normal, discovering that they have been exposed to the cure. However, many of the Bang Babies, including Ebon and Hotstreak, seek to reverse this and break into the lab that created the gas. Boy, oh boy, do we get down to the wire, to the meat and cheese in this episode. You know, I think it's one of those things to where it's like, when you're a superhero and you want it to be normal for so long, and then you get that chance, but you know what you have to do in order to keep the city safe, especially when you are a villain and you liked being empowered. You like having all that, you know, you had all the anger built up. You miss that power. You're going to try your hardest to get their power back, which they do, and they end up creating this big, huge ordeal. Static ends up saving the day. He ends up getting his powers back. So does Gear. Static, in the end, ends up becoming the Dakota superhero and goes back to stopping crime. And that, my friends, ends the whole series finale or series review of Static Shock. Again, this was a series that I was glad to review and bring to you guys on the channel, because I know most of you have heard of Static Shock by now. And if you haven't and you want to check out the series, definitely go do it. You can buy the seasons on DVD from Amazon for like 20 to 22 a piece. I think one of them is like 19 something. So again, $20. But man, overall, I think this was a really good series. Definitely go check it out. I know you can watch it on Prime Video. I'm sure you can watch, actually, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure you can watch full episodes on YouTube potentially. And if you have HBO Max, it is available to stream on HBO Max. The whole series is. But anyway, guys, that ends the video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, dislike the video, and subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Hit the bell to turn post notifications on so that way you don't miss a future upload. And if you want to stay more connected with me, definitely hit up my links to my social media accounts in the description below. I'm talking Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Reddit. If you want to see more content besides the stuff that you see here on my second channel, definitely hit up the link to my main channel in the link in the description below, Pokemon Tanny 6, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Alrighty, guys, I am AfroGeek PlusUltraNappy, and your boy is just...